All right, good evening, everybody. Joint meeting of the Planning and Development Subcommittee, Town Council meeting Thursday, March 3rd, 2022. It is 5:30 p.m. here in the Veterans Room. And I'm just passing this piece of paper around. Please sign it so I know who attended this meeting, please. All right, roll call. Catherine is excused. Councilor Lazo? Absent. Councilor Dow is excused for being late because he's got another meeting. I'll pass that around. Dee Dee?
Here.
And Councilor Adams, present. And have Councilor Daniel sit in so we can have a quorum. Thank you, I appreciate that.
No problem.
All right, roll call. All right, agenda item number 2, consider and accept planning and development meeting minutes of January 20th, 2022. A motion, a second, please.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Second.
okay. I probably didn't send you anything.
I got some minutes.
Yeah, there's the next ones.
Oh, all right.
So I just sent these ones to the board, so the committee itself. Dee Dee, you got anything?
No, it looks good.
Okay. All right, all those in favor? Councilor Adams, yes. Actually, all two of us, it's fine. 2-0. That's fine. We'll put one as abstained. All right. Agenda item number 3, consider and accept plan and development meeting minutes of February 10th, 2022.
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes.
Good.
Second.
Good. All right. Any discussion, any issues, changes? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Thank you. Agenda item number 4, review and discuss the agreement with Graphics Unlimited LLC for $1,950 for CDBG commercial rehab project at 1 to 11 Central Street. Entertain a motion to vote to recommend that town council ratify the agreement and authorize the town manager to sign all related documents. Need first and second, please.
I'll make the motion, I guess.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. So many of us in here. Mr. Town Manager or Ms. Dean, if you'd like. That was quick. All right, go ahead, Ms. Dean.
So I have a cold, forgive my voice, so I have tested negative for COVID, but I just want to wear a mask to protect you. And so I ask that you approve this tonight. It's my understanding that all contracts must be approved by town council,
Service contracts.
service contracts. And so I'm bringing this to you today to have you approve this. However, our requisition and purchase order process, that acts as a contract for all intents and purposes for me, for my grants, my procurement requirements. And so there's no formal large service agreement. It's a hard, I guess it's hard to find. For me, I either have these long service agreements with my CDBG contracts, right? Or I have like a very simple quote for services, sign, agree, etc. with the PO. So that's what this is. And the amount is under the amount that we need to go out for quotes. It's under the amount, even under federal procurement, that we need to go out for more than one quote. We initially had a company out of Auburn that was supposed to have done this design last fall, and they never came through. And so I have since nullified his quote for services and went out for a new quote. And so we've worked with Graphics Unlimited, for instance, on the 22 Hamilton, the new sign that went up in the back, the black
Oh,
metal
yes,
awning.
yes, yeah.
They did a really good job designing that, and they actually ended up getting the quote for it to install it. So I look forward to working with them. They'll get the quote done they'll get the design done within 14 days of town council approving it, so that we can get the work done in April.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Ms. Dean. Any questions on this?
And I take that back. The work, we're then gonna have to come to you for
Right.
the construction agreement. So that's gonna be, unfortunately,
Okay.
May. So I do sometimes wonder, is there a way I can package these faster? And that's my entree
This-
into my next agenda item.
Okay, this is the reason, I think there's a constant argument, what is a service contract? And how do we expedite it a little bit faster or through it? But at the same time, we're capable of having a meeting as soon as possible if there's something that's dire straight. So I think that may be a discussion to have when we talk about the charter.
And again, how do I balance not overburdening the subcommittee with agenda items or extra meetings in a month, et cetera?
Thank you,
Yeah.
Ms. Dean, appreciate it. Dee Dee?
Just a couple of questions. First of all, who is the property owner?
111 Central is U-All. It's Johnny McCarthy. They bought it in 2019. If you'll remember, there's a lot of history with the town in that building. The Economic Development and Planning Department was slated to work with Hunter Foot to have the building redeveloped. We spent $80-some odd thousand to help acquire the building at that time. And then when we went out for construction bids, all the bids came in astronomically higher than what the CDBG grant had available for redevelopment. And so the building sat stale, and Hunter Foot eventually sold it in 2019 to you all.
That's you all, but
You all.
Okay, so it's not the town of Southbridge, but it's John McCarthy? who owns
Correct.
it?
So what happens is we pay for the design for the awnings, and the reason we get them engineered is because they're going to be these rigid awnings rather than these soft canopies. And then, once we go out for construction, we've done these in the past, I don't know if you remember, it's, we bring the contractor and the property owner's contracts to you. You're signing basically to allow us to hire the contract on the property owner's behalf. It goes through us to ensure we're meeting all of the grant requirements.
Okay, so I guess my second question is, I'm not sure whether or not Mr. McCarthy owes the town any money, but do we give grants to people who owe money?
So when they submitted their application, at that time, they had no outstanding taxes. When we go to have them sign their next, when we go to have them sign the agreement, we will verify with the collector's office that they are not outstanding with any taxes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, all good questions.
And just to clarify, soft lien goes on because he's required to continue with that business for a period of 5 years, correct?
That's
I think
correct.
it is. And then a percentage may be taken off if he were to sell that business or whatever it may be, or that business were to go.
That's right. And the reason his building is a good candidate, we accepted many applications 2 years ago for the commercial rehab. And we advocated strong for his property because it's one of the, in our target area where we did a survey of all the slum and blight buildings back in 2011, that building was one of the ones that was in fair or poor condition. And so we have to be able to tie any money that's spent under a certain category in CDBG back to whatever measures. So the measure is, we're improving slum and blight, and this was based on this survey done where it said it was in fair or poor condition.
Counselor, you good? Anybody else? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? 3-0. Agenda item number 5. Review, discuss pursuing Complete Streets Tier 2. Technical assistance to hire an engineer based on the request for qualifications or RFQ. Entertain a motion to vote to recommend that town council enter into the Mass DOT agreement for Tier 2 technical assistance and authorize the town manager to sign all related documents and vendor contracts. Need a second. First and a second.
I'll do the first.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Dean?
You'll recall last month, the town council approved the Complete Streets policy, thank you, came through subcommittee. And so MassDOT approved it on February 15th. I was trying aggressively to get us through the spring's grant rounds. They have a April 1 deadline and April 1 deadline for the Tier 2 technical assistance and a Tier 3 for the actual construction projects on May 1. Since drafting this memo to you, I've had conversations with MassDOT about, I said, before I talk to my town officials, tell me, how realistic is this? And they said there's no chance we would ever get to tier 3 by May 1. But they did say continue to move as aggressively as possible to make the April 1. So then we will, by April 1, be in a position to have the agreement with MassDOT to go forward with the tier 2 technical assistance over the next few months. And then we'll be ready to apply in the fall. And so unfortunately, we may not be able to make that. We were trying to reach for the West Street shared path deadline, and it's sounding like we won't be able to make it, but that's fine. This is still the right direction for the town. If we're not saving the money in the West Street shared path, we're going to be saving the money on another future project. And so I would ask today that you consider allowing me to go forward with pursuing the RFQ, which this is exempt from procurement because it's an expert engineer or architect that doesn't have, you hire them based on their specialized license. So we would go through either VHB, tie and bond, or what did I say was the third one I was considering?
VHB.
BSC Group. And so we'll ask the three of them to respond to the RFQ. BSC Group and VHB have both already provided us a lot of information about complete streets. Tie and Bond is also very experienced in it, so they might quite well, shine more than the others. This will be based on, again, qualifications. It's a not to exceed $38,000, so they're all competing, around the same amount of money. And then it's a matter of who we think will do the best job for us. And then we will just update you as we go. What happens is we have to first complete the RFQ process. Once we know who we're going to go with, then we have to fill out that MassDOT agreement. So we're asking you for permission to go for the RFQ, go through the RFQ process, have the town manager sign that MassDOT agreement with MassDOT once it comes back, and then that will allow us to go forward with the Tier 2 technical assistance.
Questions? Yes.
Who makes a decision as to who would be hired?
It would be we as the whomever the RFQ team would be.
Okay.
Presume it's Heather Blakely as the DPW director, Matt Desjardins as the deputy DPW director, and myself, along with the town manager. Although he can defer to us to handle it as the designated. He is our chief procurement officer. I'm designated as a procurement officer, as a procurement officer also, not as the chief, but I am allowed to be designated for projects to handle a bid process or an RFQ process.
Awesome.
So I'll say this at the town council meeting, I appreciate you guys, specifically you, for moving forward with the complete streets policy. I know that was, I think it was when you first stepped on board, and then we brought this forward, and then it may have not have gone so well, but I think you specifically told me, no, we can get this thing done, and I'm glad that policy's in place now. It's only going to help the town, and maybe it can could it even go to Crane when they start working on that area?
It could, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? 3-0.
You could have spoken to the procurement piece rather than me, sorry.
I was just waiting for him to do this. Right before I even asked that question.
I think that was the first time I've ever done that, but.
It worked.
All right. So let's go to number 6. Discuss whether to recommend town council approve applying for the MOTT Destination Development Capital Grant for up to $50,000 for design portion to create a historic walking tour in Southbridge, and allow the town manager to sign any related paperwork.
So moved.
Well,
Second.
thank you.
So I'm looking through your packet to see what material you received.
So we received your memo.
Oh, it's on the backside. Okay, good.
Yes, received the
this
expression.
The reason this, I'm gonna first brag about what's happening around here. We're getting on people's radar screens, which is my biggest priority. We are doing a good job of filling out the expression of interest, getting ourselves in front of the state representatives, pursuing opportunities, even if they don't come to fruition. And so this was a result of us filling out that expression of interest, which had it did not have positive feedback, that we had a very promising project. Of the 5 we submitted, none of them to me seemed like I was getting an assurance that we should go forward. Lo and behold, they're telling the appropriate agencies, hey, include them in this webinar, or notice of funding opportunity. And so I got this invitation. I was only one of 20 people on the call asking if we were interested in applying for this. This is appropriate for the historic walking tour, which was one of the items on the
One of the
expression of
5,
interest. And the grant, unfortunately, has a 1-to-1 match. However, the good thing is you can match it over 12 months period after you've been awarded. And so what I propose is that the way we pursue it is we give ourselves the first 3 months to fundraise. And I think if the Southbridge Chamber, Southbridge Chamber, they are essentially
SVP?
the SVP is interested in supporting something like this, or the Historical Society, you've got some of these obvious potential funders for something like this. If they wanted to come forward to help us fund this in the first 3 months, we'd know whether we have the match to be able to proceed. If we don't get the funds, we rescind our award and we walk away.
Would that hurt us? Rescinding?
I can verify it similar to doing it in the past, but they say in the guidance that you have to pay them back for the money you can't raise. So I'm just going to flip the argument to them. Can we instead just not go forward? So yes, I'll clarify before the meeting on the 14th.
Okay.
And I
Questions?
feel like that's the safest route for us, right? We don't obligate ourselves to fundraising. The obligation in this grant that does happen, however, is that it says they expect we will go forward with the construction within 3 years. And so then I would doubly argue that then that means we'll definitely go forward with another one of their grants next year. If we follow through on the design, then we would pursue funding for construction, and these are recurring grants.
Okay. Tim, did you have anything?
No, other than, I know this council had asked, we try and get a tally of the amount of grants that we pursue and that we receive. I don't think a day goes by where we are alerted to some community compact grant, like Complete Streets, and oftentimes I just refer these to Ms. Dean, and she gets them on her own, and she'll consult me, and we do have some conversations, like even when she said the 1-for-1, I asked her, because I know there's certain councilors that want to see 100%, but, she articulated how you could try and get through this and what the benefits were, and that it was of interest by certain members of the community. So I encourage her to go through this process to at least bring it to your attention, and ultimately you can decide, I realize the 1-to-1 match isn't what everybody wants, but we have to present you with ideas. And she's very good at taking a lot of these things and ferreting them out. So, I appreciate her efforts, and we realize you can't approve or accept all of them, or maybe you don't want to, but our job is just to keep presenting you opportunities. So.
Thank you.
Not every, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Mr.
please.
Chair.
Yeah.
Through you. Not every grant is a fully funded grant anyway, so I look at 1-to-1 as being a 50% reimbursement.
Right.
Or 50% grant, and that's nothing to sneeze at. That's fine. How involved would this construction be that you mentioned in the background?
It's to be able to install landmarks at historic sites, and the QR code readers, and the whatever audio we would need along with a kiosk.
Now, would this be expandable in the future? Or?
It could. So this came up on the call, this exact project idea. We are not the only ones trying to lure tourists through it's the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism. So this is, a more common way to attract people to your town. The idea is whatever you design, you're going to build. So we shouldn't initially I had said we should design whatever we picture in the future and then do it in phases as we can afford it. I take that back. With this model, if we go forward with this grant, then we should do whatever we think we can afford in the next grant round. So, if it's 10 landmarks and 1 kiosk that we design, then we go forward with that. And then, yes, of course, I see you being able to build on that very easily. You just have to make sure you design your kiosk so it's not permanent. or your, whatever your audio tour is, can you insert in a certain place within the tour to be able to add on extra landmarks? And I think that I'm presuming, because I'm not an expert in these things, but I'm hopeful that if that's an easy thing to do.
Just a couple questions on this. Could we, I know we're looking for a one-to-one on this one, but and not to exceed $100,000. ARPA funds? Could they be used? Okay. And I'm just throwing that out there because I know we're trying to expend it.
Because it needs to be raised by, this is part of it is getting buy-in from your community. And so I'll have to look into that.
Okay.
Yeah, because at one point I think I saw you could not use other state or federal grant funds. And so that's why I saw the SBP and the Historic Society, other nonprofits, not any kind of public agencies.
And there could be a possibility of use of, and it was brought up the other day about just the simple things as carpets in here, of capital projects that haven't been utilized in a while. We do this every year, since 2018, where we found all that extra funds that hadn't been spent yet over
Right,
7 years,
funds,
5
yeah.
years, yeah.
Right.
So maybe that's another thing that could be looked at. But I know Karen's working on that and trying to make with the department head. So, okay, all right, thank you. Anything else? You're good? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? 3-0. All right. Agenda item number 7. Town manager update on the cannabis establishments in town, retail, cultivation, and lab. I actually spoke with the town manager about this because we have so many cannabis, I wouldn't say so many, but we have a lot of cannabis from retail to a lab to cultivators that are coming to town. Kind of get an update. I know Councilor Marquetti had brought it up, but I wondered as far as what money was coming in, I just want to see what the status of these. We already know a lot of these are doing really well, and I just see where we're doing well at and where we're doing not so well at.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did speak with Eric Rumsey earlier in the week about this so that we would have some information for you. I think some of you are familiar with some of the operations that are in. As you know, under our zoning laws, we can issue 4 special permits for retail. And after the town voted to allow marijuana, we did get 4 executed host community agreements. That was before I came to town for retail. So just to go down the list of some of the folks that we have here in town, and under the categories, I'm sure you all know, Green Meadows is by far the largest operation that we have in town. According to the notes from Mr. Rumsey, they've been in operation for the adult use dispensary for just about a year now. And with part of that, pursuant to the terms of the agreement, there are certain payments they're obligated to make community impact payments. There's some charitable contributions to the town, as well as they're paying their 3% excise or local option tax on marijuana. So last year we realized that when the town first adopted adult retail marijuana, we had not at that time pursued the local option tax, and I caught that. So as of about third quarter fiscal year 21, we just started to see some of the revenues. I don't have that number. I'll try and get that for one of the upcoming meetings. But I know I've talked to the folks over at Green Meadows. They've been doing quite well. Mr. Rumsey noted that as well. They've been doing cultivation over there. They started in fall of 21. They've had some of their first harvests about a year ago now. Medical marijuana came on board over there. And Mr. Rumsey noticed that they're employing 80 plus individuals, with 45% being Southbridge residents. Next of the 4 retail, we have Burke Cannabis. They're on Worcester Street, and they had their first sale last fall in November, and they are progressing. I don't think we've seen any revenues yet from them, and as it'll catch up. Green Path, which is here on Main Street, they're still under construction. As you know, they were the subject of a lengthy planning board process. And according to the notes from Mr. Rumsey, there was some issues they had with contractors in their fire protection system, but they're planning to open in May of this year. So we get down to the last one, which is Mellow Tiger, which is down in the Hook Hamilton Central Street, right by the R&B. His characterization was in limbo. There's been no construction started, no permits aside from the special permit that they've applied for. At one point, they looked for certification, I believe, of their HCA, but we're not aware that they may have done much with the CCC at this point. Similarly, the Dutchman, which is down in Gold Village, came in, and that was, I believe, for cultivation. And they secured their special permit, but they haven't really done anything, they haven't progressed much there. Mr. Rumsey noted that he is aware that there is someone else interested in cultivation and looking for space here in town, that they may be coming forward for a host community agreement sometime this year. And then we have LabX, which is further on down Main Street, East Main Street. He said they've secured their request for determination of applicability from the Conservation Commission for an addition to the building where they've secured a special permit, and they expect to be open later this spring for testing. So when it comes down to it, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 host community agreements. Two retail that are actively running, one well on the way, one in limbo, one cultivation that's in limbo, one seeking to come in, and somebody who will be opening and testing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And just, as you know, we've been constantly reaching out. Mr. Rumsey's been doing it, and I've been doing it from my office on some of these folks to find their status. I either talk to them on the phone or meet with them from time to time, because shortly after I got here, as you may recall, Mr. Marchetti had asked for some movement on the pavement management plan, which I worked on with DPW. And when we proposed that plan, we proposed funding using the marijuana money. So that was one of the chief motivators. The town wanted to get this money to help the town. And we proposed to the council that that would be a good funding mechanism, a good strategy for the marijuana money. At that time, I had reached out to all of these 4 retail establishments to get projections from them on their timeline as well as their revenue. And that's what we use loosely as the framework for that plan. Nothing's ever guaranteed, but 2 of those people made good on their promise to open, or were pretty close to it. The one on Main Street, I said, had a couple of setbacks, but they're still going forward. But the information that I was given from the one that's in limbo has been a bit disappointing, because we wanted to see them further along than they are.
Thank you.
And I do, talking to Mr. Rumsey about the Dutchman, we'll reach out to them and get some more information about them. They're the other ones who have their special permit, but where they are right now is a little bit unclear.
Okay. Thank you. Dee Dee, you have anything?
So one of the ones that's not coming forward at this point in time with much of anything is where the fire department was initially going to build.
Yes.
Okay.
And that, I wasn't here for all those discussions, but I believe consideration was given to looking at an alternative site, believing that they were going forward, establishing, they had already executed the host community agreement with those people, and were willing to honor that agreement so that they could go forward with their business. Town pursued an alternative site.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Is it me, or is there some industry statistic, for lack of a better term? It seems like there's not a lot of follow-through by a large percentage of the people that are coming into town looking for business. Is that industry-wide, or is that just our luck, or how is that falling out?
So I don't have any official information, but I know that there are other people, we get contacted, I say we, either I get contacted directly or Mr. Rumsey gets contacted by other people from not only within the Commonwealth, outside of the Commonwealth, who have had some track record and may have other operations elsewhere that are interested in coming in, seeing if we have available host community agreements, or some would like to operate retail. And I think they look at the town's geographic location, its proximity to the Pike and 84, the state line, and that there's generally a fair amount of space and a variety of different space if they want to do cultivation testing. So I do think we are an attractive community for that type of establishment and that type of business. I think what may have happened early on is people thought this was going to be a gold mine, and I think there are some people, not only in this town but in other towns, thought, hey, we'll just get in, we'll form a business organization, we'll figure this out as we go, but let's snatch it up like a land rush way back in the 1800s. I think a lot of people really thought this would be a gold mine for them. This is just my personal observations. And some people had the business experience coming in, and maybe in that area, you look at Green Meadows, they came from an agricultural background, they had their farm, and they had business experience, and I think they had a good business model. I'm not saying the rest of them don't, we've talked to all of them, but COVID happened. I know people lost or vindicated that they may have lost funding across the way when COVID hit. There's a lot of things that have happened along the way. Some have been able to overcome some of the adversity. Others I can't really comment on because we touch base with them. We see they're working on things, but that's why I think Mr. Rumsey characterized some of them as in limbo. I think they're still trying to make a go of it. It's just it may be hard for them, or maybe they don't have the contacts in the business. But it seems to be the ones who come in with some other collective business acumen from other areas, and then bring in consultants seem to flourish more so than others.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? So just clarification, we have 4 retail, which is allowed by the town for retail, but everything else is almost unlimited. So everything's unlimited. We do have 1 medical facility, and that's Green Meadows. Okay. So we do have 1 retail that has failed to produce anything, especially specifically based on their permit that they received and were approved by the planning board. For a timeline, do you think it's best at this point in time, and top of my head is thinking maybe it's time to send a letter to the owners of the host agreement, to ask them to come in front of the planning and development subcommittee? I'm not sure if they can show, we just can request them, and then at this point in time, we'd like to know where they're at with this whole thing. The host agreement's almost, 2.5 years old now. It's almost half life is gone.
I can consult with Mr. Rumsey as well and get back to you either through this form or directly in email as to what the best case. But I do think to have them in and talk to them about where they are, where they're headed. Just I've conveyed to them as well as the others that we put together a pavement management plan based on a lot of those projections, and it was our hope to fund a lot of that road work using these funds. So I've expressed some disappointment to certain people, but it may be worthwhile. I can check with council too what our options are. I would just like people to be motivated and follow through. That's, I think, what we all want to see here.
So if legal counsel says it's yes, then I wouldn't see a problem on behalf of the town sending a letter to them. I don't think there needs to be a vote here at the P&D subcommittee. I think it's something that we can just follow up on our next P&D meeting.
I mean, I could really just email that. I've been in communication with them before, and we had a meeting last fall trying to talk about where they were. I'm sure we could send a similar email, invite them in to just share their thoughts and ideas of where they are and where they intend to be.
Maybe, was thinking also to set up another P and D specifically for them, unless, Peg and Eric have something else that they want to put on the agenda, but do you want to just throw out some dates to them too as well, and then see which one they pick, and then we can try to work that out?
Okay.
Okay, and then we can set up a P and D for that. It'd be nice to know where, we have a host agreement with them, we have an agreement, we have a contract, and the town's abiding by what their contract portion is. Actually moved a fire station for them, a possible fire station, and they haven't even done the basics. That's what it sounds like, so, okay. All right. Anything else? It was just a discussion at this point in time. Thank you, appreciate it. All right, motion adjourned, number 8.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?